How good my review of Sing Street, directed by John Carney, a musical dramedy that centers on a poor 15-year-old Irish boy of a 1980s Dublin as he starts a pop rock band with newfound friends, all in the name of grabbing the attention of a girl. Sing Street is written and directed by John Carney, who also wrote and directed a very noteworthy indie film from 2007 titled Once. You may have heard of the song Falling Slowly. It won an Academy Award. And like Sing Street, Once is sort of an unconventional musical, meaning that the music is actually performed on a stage or for an audience. For those of you who have not seen Once, it is a film that I would definitely recommend. And given its low budget, it's one of those times that I would say that having a low budget actually benefited the film because it has a very behind-the-scenes music documentary look to it, so it makes everything that you see on screen seem all the more genuine and all the more real. In other words, I found it to be a rather intimate experience, as if you are, and I kind of hate this expression, a fly on the wall. As for Sing Street, in contrast to Once, this is a more lighthearted film. That said, this still maintains a sense of honesty, at least about 75% of it does. And I'll elaborate on that a little bit further in a bit. The central character Connor, played by Fredia Walsh-Pilo, goes to this Catholic school that pretty much comprises of only bullies, and the priest is pretty much no exception. He's a real piece of shit. His home life isn't a hell of a lot better. He's very poor, can't even afford new shoes to fit the school's dress code. His parents are constantly fighting, so yeah, it's not the most amazing situation. Not to mention he has his own personal bully who constantly antagonizes him and projects his own insecurities onto him. This is a film that does take on some heavy and relatable themes and could easily be a much darker film if it didn't have a more lighthearted tone. So in other words, it doesn't become consumed by it. Sing Street is a movie that wants you to go in, have a good time, yet sell you something that isn't a complete facade. That is, until the third act, again, which I will talk about in a minute. Now, the two central performances by Fredia Walsh-Pilo and Lucy Boynton, they are extraordinary and they are among the year's best. They never come off as actors giving a performance, but as people in an authentic relationship. And really all of the performances here are great. If there's only one problem that I have is that Fredia, he's playing Connor, who is supposed to be 15 years old, which he fits that age, and you have Lucy, who plays Rafina, who is only supposed to be like a year older, yet she looks like she's 5, and indeed that's because she is. In defense of the film, aside from the fact that she was probably the best candidate to play this character, you see her through Connor's eyes. Given that she is a year older, and given that he is so young, he might see her older than what she actually is, and that's just my theory. Now, one thing that I have not yet talked about is the music, and the group goes through multiple phases, musically and aesthetically, that range from Duran Duran to The Cure. The soundtrack itself is pretty great, although there are numerous times throughout the movie where it does ask to suspend your disbelief. Like in the time span of just a week, Connor goes from being a terrible singer with little musical talent to being a good singer who is a musical virtuoso. Him and his bandmates are able to make these music videos with expensive equipment, with elaborate costumes, and the overall production quality in their recordings is like grade A. However, it's these leaps in logic that I was able to forgive because of how much I was enjoying the film, watching these kids interact with one another, who all, by the way, look and act like real kids. And I really became entranced with the relationship of Connor and Rafina, something that comes off as brutally honest, especially in the second act when the film takes on a more mature tone. The second act peels back all those layers with its central characters, only for the film to betray itself in the third act by taking the expectation route versus what you actually get with reality. To say as much as possible without spoiling anything, the third act is essentially a fantasy. And not entirely, but it did kind of remind me of something that I would see on the Disney Channel, which really crippled the film, a film that was really among my favorites of the year with Acts 1 and 2. I understand what John Carney was trying to do, but instead of leaving the film feeling optimistic, I left the film feeling as if I had just been sold a lie. And what really makes things worse is that there is a scene in this film that actually is a fantasy, and what we see at the end of the film isn't too different from the actual fantasy. Though if there's anything positive I can say about the third act is that it did make me like a song by Adam Levine, so that's good. So with everything said, I'm going to give Sing Street a 3.5 out of 5. If you are somebody who has seen Sing Street, then do let me know your thoughts on it. And as always, I'm Colin Kirkland, and thank you so much for watching.